Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Very good. Well, before I go on any further, we feel free to share anyone or post any questions. Have any? The full moon is in just several hours, only about 6 hours away, I think. So we're right in the full moon period tonight. No one wants to share? All right. Then I want to share 2 or 3 different themes tonight. Tonight, as in the evening here in Portugal. Can everyone see that screen, that quote I have up there on there about the true Leo type?
Yeah, yes, we can see the screen.
Very good. That black strip there, can I close that without making any problems? See that black strip there, Natalia, where my mouse is? Can I close that because it's getting in the way?
Sorry, Philip, what are you saying?
That black strip across the top. Maybe only the host can see it, but it's
no, there's no. Maybe it's yours only. We cannot see anything.
Right. Okay.
Just the slides. Okay.
Okay. So this is. I don't know if all of you have had a chance to read the newsletter or not, but the things I'm going to discuss tonight are in the newsletter, but I'm going to go into them in a little bit more depth. So this quote from Esoteric Astrology says, the true Leo type must, and I just can't quite see the top of the page there, just a second. Okay, I closed the black strip without any problem. So the true Leo type must react in a new and unique manner to the profit opportunity. And when I say type, I refer to those people whose sun is in Leo or who have Leo rising. This is a quote from Esoteric Astrology. So my commentary to that is, esoterically, the rising sign or ascendant represents the sole purpose. The exact moment when a baby takes its first breath determines astronomically the zodiac sign on the eastern horizon. That's why the Tibetan in the Alice Bailey books calls it the sun of possibility. The rising sign is the sun of possibility, as opposed to the sun sign itself, which is known as the sun of probability. So probability refers to the fact that the sun sign in which a person chooses to disincarnate becomes the sun sign of the next incarnation, where the thread of experience from one life to another is followed. So if you die when the sun is in Gemini, you'll come back in Gemini, and I'll explain why. And first of all, we read this quote here from a treatise in White Magic. Quote, the birth month indicates the day of opportunity. The door stands open. The particular month in which a soul comes into incarnation is indicated to that soul by the month in which it passed out of incarnation in a previous life cycle. If it, for instance, died in the month governed by the sign Leo, it will return into incarnation in the same sign picking up the thread of experience where it left it, and starting with the same type of energy and the peculiar equipment with which it passed away from Earth life, plus the gain of thought and conscious onlooking. The quality of the energy and the nature of the forces to be manipulated during life are indicated to the soul in this way. This is a fascinating passage. And so my commentary here is that the sun sign represents the threefold personality, mental, emotional, and physical bodies, each of which has a permanent atom associated with it. The permanent atoms are a really essential part of the Ageless Wisdom teachings to understand what they are. And these atoms are like a hard disk that holds the stored repositories of all life experience in all incarnations. So when the soul reincarnates and starts to build the new bodies of the personality, it draws upon the memory patterns within the permanent atoms to create the karmically correct vehicle to express itself through. This includes all strengths and the weaknesses, so-called, or karmic impediments, individual, cultural, and racial. So this is a fascinating study and only is the tip of the iceberg in terms of what could be explored and revealed. And this will certainly happen as we move into the Aquarian age in the next couple of centuries. These blue books by Alice Bailey and Blavatsky still have not been done justice in terms of the extraordinary amount of information that's being given out. That would take literally centuries, maybe even the whole Aquarian age, to really do justice to. The study of the seven rays, for instance, is a science in itself, of which esoteric astrology is dedicated to exploring and explicating, if you like. So another quote here from White Magic: the rising sign embodying another type of energy should wax in strength during the incarnation, for it indicates the nature of the soul force that the incarnated Son of God is seeking to wield through the medium of a particular personality, the sun sign, of course, possessing certain characteristics. Now, in exoteric astrology, the rising sign is regarded as the personality, and the sun sign as the soul. Esoteric astrology reverses that viewpoint, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. When because a certain person disincarnated in Gemini, for instance, and comes back in Gemini, that is a probable factor. That's why it's called the sun of probability. But when the soul gets close to that point, that several days or few weeks period around when the baby is due to be born, the soul comes in again and chooses the exact hour, the exact minute, if possible, of birth to get the requisite rising sign for that incarnation. And quite often we have the same rising sign for 7 incarnations in a row. DK tells us somewhere in the blue books. So if we were Cancer rising, then we develop the qualities of Cancer for 7 incarnations. And quite often these incarnation cycles are based on developing certain qualities to do with the soul ray and to do with the ashram with which you're associated. For instance, you may spend 7 lifetimes along a trajectory of artistic expression, musical expression, scientific expression, working in politics, in any area of human endeavor. And once you've done that, then you move on to the next one. And always according, especially when you start to reverse the wheel and take the lesser initiations, always according to the greater plan and purpose that's expressing itself through the so-called 49 ashrams, which are all ray and sub-ray ashrams within the greater ashram of the Christ. It's a lot to take in, I know, but this is this, as we gravitate towards the center of each of these ashrams through the various ring pass knots or magnetic barriers, which we can call initiations, then we become more aware of the planetary plan as it's expressing specifically through your particular ashram. You might be in a second ray ashram with a fifth ray sub-ray, which would equate well with people who are working with scientific methods of healing, for instance, doctors and surgeons and that kind of thing. Or you might be in an ashram on the third ray with a seventh ray personality. You may work in the area of business or philosophy or history, for instance. So all these permutations of the 7 major ashrams with their sub-ray permutations constitute the 49 ashrams of that is basically held within the greater ashram of Christ. Any comments or questions so far? When I'm looking at this screen, by the way, I can't actually tell who's... Oh, yes, I can. Okay, there's the toolbar. All right.
Philip, if there's somebody writing, I'll let you know, okay?
Very good, thanks. Yeah, this expanded screen deletes the toolbar unless I use my mouse, then it comes up. Yeah, it's okay. All right. So, of course, those of you who are familiar with astrology will know that there are rulerships for each of the signs, and there are esoteric rulerships and hierarchical rulerships. There are 3 levels of rulerships that relate to the monad, the soul, and the personality. So for most of us who are still building the Antakarana, or the bridge between personality and soul, the esoteric rulership is probably the most important, and it's positioned by sign, house, aspect in the horoscope, gives us a lot of information about how that soul purpose unfolds. I talked about this in the recent newsletter regarding the French writer Balzac. And of course, on my website, in my books, there are many other astrobios, as I call them, astrobiographies, which is really the best way to learn astrology. You look at your own chart, your family, your friends, famous people in history, and you look at how what constitutes the working out of their soul purpose. Today, for instance, I was looking at the Wright brothers. Someone posted on Facebook an article about the Wright brothers' sister, who's generally not known, but she was the one who held everything together with the business, the promotion of their work, because they were basically reclusive inventors who invented the first flying machines, of course. And of course, we know that aviation is ruled by Uranus. So I went to their charts and looked at where Uranus was and what it was doing. Both of them were Leo rising, actually. And so Uranus is the hierarchical ruler of Leo, which I discussed in Balzac's astrobiography, in fact, in the newsletter. And so Uranus was, they were really invoking the hierarchical ruler of their soul purpose, Leo rising. But no doubt the esoteric ruler Neptune was also working in terms of imagination, of the vision of aviation, all those kind of things. And it's interesting that France was the first country to pick up, to take them seriously. And France is a 5th ray soul, 5th ray of science. So we see all these things whenever I watch a a documentary on or video of a person's life, I always have their chart up, and as the commentary is unfolding, I'll pause and look at the chart and go, oh yes, that figures, that's right, you know. So this is the way to really learn astrology in depth, whether it's exoteric or esoteric astrology. All right. So I tacked on at the last moment, much to the consternation of my translators, and an extra few paragraphs on this newsletter regarding Venus and Leo and Sirius. In fact, this is very timely to talk about it because Venus moved into Leo about 20 minutes ago, as it does every year, and will be there for about 3 weeks. And its position here is extraordinary in many ways because it really amplifies the energy of the fifth ray, which Venus rules, and of Sirius. So let's just read through this this bit, and I'll be making comments as we go. In humanistic or psychological astrology, Venus in Leo is a magnetic charismatic position that I refer to as the movie star. For example, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman have this position, and many other people in all walks of life, of course, that they can, whether they're actors or not, certainly express this magnetic charisma. Leo itself is a charismatic sign. It's ruled by the sun, and so they can really shine. Esoterically, however, Venus in Leo links to the mighty sun Sirius. Venus is regarded as the higher self or alter ego to our Earth, and is one of the planets that transmits energies from Sirius, a star that is in turn the higher self to this solar system as a whole. So we have Venus transmitting to Earth as the higher self of Earth. A sister planet is also being called, and Sirius, the higher self to our solar system. Our solar system, in a sense, is the progeny of Sirius. And it is said that most souls on this planet, once they have liberated themselves, will return to Sirius and begin a higher stage of evolution. So Venus rules the fifth ray of knowledge and science, one of the two rays that find expression through Leo, the fifth sign. The number 5 represents manas or mind, and Sirius finds one of its strongest expressions through Leo, a spiritual festival that will be dedicated to the invocation of Sirian forces in the Aquarian age. Of course, this is in fact already occurring now, and I've been promoting this for the last 10 years. Even though they say that the energy of Sirius cannot be sensed till after the third initiation, which very few of us would be near, I would imagine. Most aspirants on the path today are somewhere between the first and second initiation. But nonetheless, it still can be invoked, a lot of people say, and I agree with that. And in the last 50 years, we've had a lot of information published about Sirius, great awareness generated about by the fact that Sirius is aligned to various temples and pyramids all around the world. Books on Sirius, for instance, by the author Robert Temple back in the 70s, is still a great seller. And it was a very interesting book. I remember studying it well, way back. And of course, all the information given out through the Blue Books and through the Secret Doctrine by Blavatsky, a lot of information on Sirius, either directly stated or inferred or hinted at. The Tibetan drops a lot of hints. There are a lot of veils throughout the Blue Books that we are challenged to break through with our intuition. this brings me to another point about the Alice Bailey books. A lot of people do read them through from cover to cover and say, I've read the whole 24, therefore I know everything. In fact, many of us have read the books, some of the books 4 or 5 times, and still could read them countless times and not understand it all. DK tells us somewhere that even the masters themselves are still studying some of these books. DK was one of the masters who has the most cosmic knowledge of pretty much most of the masters, which is interesting. And he is regarded as a junior master in some respects. So he comes from that Kala Chakra lineage in Tibetan Buddhism that really specializes in a lot of these this cosmic knowledge. Anyway, I digress, as us third-rate types tend to do. So we're looking at the relationship between Venus and Sirius. And of course, in the Aquarian age, the 5th ray is the only ray to come through Aquarius. The only ray that's been given is coming through Aquarius. It comes through Leo and Aquarius, but Leo has the 1st ray coming through it as well. But for Aquarius, only the 5th ray. But of course, other rays are associated with Aquarius through the rulerships of Uranus, 7th ray, and Jupiter, the 2nd ray of love wisdom. From the number 5 is derived Leo's great power as a ruler, a sovereign of its domain, yet magnanimous Leo is also associated with the heart, Leo the lion heart. Leo therefore expresses the 2 inextricably entwined paths of love and mind, heart and head. This is a great mystery. And when we look at Sirius, the energy that emanates from Sirius is along the 2nd ray line from one point of view, or the 5th ray line from one point of view, and reaches us as the 2nd ray. Here again, we have the conundrum of the relationship of the 2nd ray of love wisdom to the 5th ray of science or knowledge. The 2 colors of which, indigo, blue, and orange, sit opposite each other on the 7-fold color wheel. Now, Venus is also known as the planet of love and relationships through its skill at reconciling opposites and the creation of harmony and beauty upon the mental plane, filtering down eventually to the astral plane, where love and sex are more easily sensed for humanity as a whole. So we have Venus ruling several signs, exoterically and esoterically. Traditionally, Venus rules Taurus and relates to money and desire, at that basic level. But at the higher level, Venus as the ruler of Taurus concerns the acquisition of not money and matter, but of higher knowledge that is transformed ultimately to wisdom. Venus is the ruler of Libra exoterically, and therefore, concerns relationships, marriage, sex. Libra is esoterically the law, sex, and money. But Venus is also the esoteric ruler of Gemini, and Gemini is regarded as the sign of general relationships. And as the esoteric ruler of Gemini, Venus balances the pairs of opposites upon the mental plane and creates harmony. It reconciles the warring twins. So both Sirius and Venus were responsible for the awakening of consciousness in the hitherto animal humanity in ancient Lemuria, 21.5 million years ago, at what we call individualization. Venus, Mercury, and the Earth, in fact, were in an esoteric triangle, channeling, if you like, the energy of Sirius that brought about the electrification, the electrical awakening of mind in animal humanity of that time. But it also created a lot of destruction, which resulted in the reincarnation of all those so-called animal humanity coming back in with souls, with individual souls, not group souls. This is a great mystery. So there's a quote here from Cosmic Fire. The sun Sirius is the source of logoic manas, or mind, and Venus was responsible for the coming in of mind in the Earth chain. Each was primary to the other, or was the agent which produced the first flicker of consciousness in the particular soul groups involved. This is another profound passage. There are so many, of course, in the blue books, as we call them, that you go back to time after time and read and reread and ponder and chew it over, like chewing a bone, like a dog chewing a bone. Of course, Sirius is the Canis Major, the dog, the blue dog, I call him. So what Sirius represents as cosmic manas, or mind, reaches this solar system as love wisdom. As I said before, we inhabit a second ray love wisdom system in this particular cycle. That is the goal for the incarnation of this entire system. If we go back into the really dim night of time, into the previous solar system to this one, yes, there was a previous solar system. The third ray of active intelligence was the main development, and apparently in the next solar system, the third and final one, or the first, esoterically speaking, the energy of will or power, the first ray, will be developed. Of course, a solar system lasts a very long time, about 3.1 trillion years to be exact, as I discuss in my Hidden History documentary and my book, Unveiling Genesis. Excuse me. So I hope I haven't lost you there. So at this Leo full moon on 12th of August, tomorrow, 2022, look at all those twos, by the way, the second ray of love wisdom. Venus is in the first degree of Leo, whose Sabian symbol is, under emotional stress, blood rushes to a man's head. Or one can make many interpretations of that, which I'm not going to attempt tonight. But if you want to look into more commentary on that, you can look up Dane Rudjar's commentary on the internet, or Linda Hill, her Sabian symbol site is very good. And there are other authors as well, but those two authors would be sufficient to get further commentary there. Hence, for the next few weeks, August the 12th to September the 5th, transiting Venus in Leo has the capacity to unify the love-mind principle, thinking in the heart, so to speak, the potential to invoke realization of the Sirian principles of freedom and liberation, so desperately needed in this current cycle here on Earth. So that was one of the main topics I wanted to cover today. Are there any questions or commentary from any of you? Feel free to share. Don't be shy. Is my video on, Natalia?
Yes, it is.
Okay. It disappeared. That window disappears when I'm in full screen. And of course,
Philip, it looks everybody wants to have you keep talking.
sure, okay. Well, another theme was the sun in this solar system itself. The sun is the ruler of Leo at the personality level, the soul level, and the hierarchical level. But at the soul and hierarchical levels, the sun veils Neptune and Uranus respectively. Hence, they're the three Leo rulers. I touched upon before when I was discussing the Wright brothers. But Blavatsky goes into a very interesting commentary. Well, she has a lot of quotes about the sun all the way through the Secret Doctrine. Those of you who have read the Secret Doctrine, where she talks about the 8 cometary brothers, the cometary as in comets, that were that essentially formed this solar system, and they were the main planets as we know them today, and the sun as we know it today. But the sun kept on burning, and the other planets cooled down, retaining their inner fire, of course, at the core of each planet. So this is a great mystery, and it's referred. The sun is referred to as Martanda, Martanda. If you want to look that up in the Secret Doctrine and read the passage yourself. I do cover it in my book Unveiling Genesis, Mysteries of the Root, Races and Cycles as well. Much to chew upon and ponder there with regard to the mystery of how our solar system came into being, this so-called incarnation of the great star Sirius. So, now I can talk about any number of other things tonight, but that's all I had really listed so far. So unless I get any more questions that may set me off on another trajectory, then we can go back and discuss the planetary centers again that I first started talking about before the meditation, or any other thing. So we need this to be a little bit more interactive, people. Someone breathing very heavily. Is that a question?
Hi. Hi, Philip.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you. Thanks you so much for doing this. Nice to meet you in person,
Yeah, likewise.
more or less.
Yeah, another Canadian.
Yeah. Not to belabor this thing about Leo and the sun. I'm a Leo myself, so I may have a little extra interest in it. But why is the sun a stand-in or veiling, I think is the word, the esoteric and the hierarchical planets? Why not just say the hierarchical planet is Uranus, and the esoteric planet is like with the other signs?
Yeah.
I know that the moon also, in a couple of situations, veils another planet.
That's right.
So why do the sun and the moon veil? What does that mean, veiling?
Very good question. I think it's related to the fact that the energies of Neptune and Uranus pour through the sun. You know, the heart of the sun is in many ways Neptune. To really properly answer your question, I'd have to go into the synthesizing schemes. The 3 main synthesizing schemes of this solar system are the Uranus scheme, the Neptune scheme, and the Saturn scheme. They work as a triangle and concern the first, second, and third aspects. And from them, all the other planetary schemes emanate and will resolve back to those 3 schemes ultimately when we've gone through all these evolutions of Venus and Jupiter and the Earth and so forth. All those, before this solar system disincarnates, if you like, all those schemes will resolve back to the 3 major planetary schemes. But that's another subject. But suffice to say, I think he's talking about, you know, in exoteric astrology, the sun rules Leo, and that's it, period. You know, so esoteric astrology opens up the esoteric, and if a person who is a Leo or Leo rising is responding to the veiled planet, whether it's Neptune, Uranus, or both, then there it is. And similarly with the moon, we've been told that the moon is a dead planet. It's got no spiritual energy in it whatsoever. It only has a biological influence upon the earth in terms of the affecting our bodies, the tides, the lunar matter which our bodies are composed of. All the spiritual energy from the moon, which is a remnant of the previous globe of the earth chain, in fact, from the previous chain to this one, the third chain of the earth scheme. We're in the fourth chain now. And by the way, you can find out all this information on the video, Hidden History, and also Unveiling Genesis. So, and usually when I look at a chart to see which planet the moon is veiling, and DK says it depends on the intuition, of course, of the astrologer, and quite often I'm stumped, I don't know what. But quite often I do find the veiled planet often through aspects of the moon itself. The moon, for instance, might square Neptune. And if it does, I'm pretty sure that the moon veils Neptune in that case.
Okay.
And you could say the same about the sun. If you're a Sun-Neptune conjunction, there's a good possibility that the sun veils Neptune. But it may not. It may veil Uranus, and the moon might veil Neptune or Vulcan. So we are just in such kindergarten at the moment with all this information that we've been given, and I can't satisfactorily answer that question to your or my satisfaction, but can make a stab at it.
Well, thank you. So just one more little bit. Let's say the hierarchical ruler of any of the signs, and that refers to the monad, but most of us, the monad is not, we're not really conscious or relating too much with our monad yet. I don't know, maybe some people, but when does that kick in? And is it like a matter of degree or a certain initiation?
Yes.
All of a sudden, ta-da, there it is, the hierarchical influence?
Yeah, a bit of both. Essentially, I have speculated with other esoteric astrology students that one can start to feel a sense of the monad somewhere between the first and second initiations, probably closer to the second initiation, where the complete control of the astral body is demonstrated. Up until then, the aspirant or the disciple is concerned with the building of the antakarana from lifetime to lifetime, between the soul and the personality. And it's more when a person is closer to the third initiation that the antakarana is being built from the soul to the monad or the spirit, and therefore invoking the hierarchical ruler. So I would say sometime after the second initiation that process really starts to accelerate quite a lot. Maybe 2.5 onwards, but we're getting into kind of technical things here. I'm just speculating, but that's the general theory, I think.
Okay,
Thank you.
Philip. Thank you, Hug.
And
there's also, oh, I'm sorry. You
that's
were
all right.
finishing.
No, I saw the comment in the chat thing.
Yeah, okay, so
Sylvia
it's okay.
says, Philip,
Yeah.
can you please address current events as these continue to unfold globally regarding loss of personal autonomy? Yes. Well, I'm not going to get political here. You all know what I write in my newsletters, but I can say that this is a great testing for humanity to take back its power that's been stolen from them or has been um, conned or abrogated by other powers. And we went through this initiation process of the first initiation back in about this time last century, between the two world wars. The door of initiation, millions of people went through that door back then because of the pain and agony of the wars and of a certain awakening that took place. And now, 1 century later, through a different kind of war, the war upon the astral plane, the war of strong minds trying to control weaker minds of the mass of humanity, has created a situation where that has backfired in some ways. The people are waking up. People are seeing the extremes of other humans and what they're trying to do, and are reclaiming their autonomy. They are taking the first initiation. They are reversing the wheel, as we call it in esoteric astrology, where you get off the mutable cross of the so-called symbolic 700 incarnations and mount the fixed cross, where we take the first 3 initiations, the first, second, and third initiations, taken on the fixed cross, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius. Leo, in fact, rules over the first degree initiation generically. That's something worth mentioning in Leo. Scorpio over the second degree initiation, most appropriately, a water sign that relates to the control of the astral body. And Aquarius, a mental sign, rules over appropriately the third degree initiation, generically. So it doesn't mean to say if you have those signs prominent in your chart that you're going to be taking that initiation in this lifetime. Initiation is a rare event over many lifetimes. It's the culmination of your self-initiated efforts. But, you know, I have seen charts where I feel a person has taken or will take the second degree initiation in this life, that are Scorpio rising, for instance. Given what they've told me about their lives and so forth. It's been a fair bet that they've got to that point. It's a very advanced stage to take. A lot of people think that they have taken the second initiation, because human ego is such that we'd always like to be further advanced than where we actually are. But anyway, that's a whole subscience of esoteric astrology, and I've wandered from the point now. Oh yeah, we're talking about current autonomy, as Sylvia asked. So that's my short answer, but my long answer is in all my newsletters for the last 2.5 years. You know, this war has been won. It's up to humanity to really decide whether they want to prolong the agony for a couple more centuries or nip it in the bud in the next 10 years. As I'm fond of saying often. But I'm very encouraged by many developments I've seen lately. I see the whole exercise is falling apart, on the medical front, on the political front. This is all Pluto in the latter degrees of Capricorn doing its destroying work. The first ray of Pluto in Capricorn, clearing the decks for 2025 in many ways. And hierarchy are standing by and watching. They're seeing it all unfold. They're allowing it to unfold. They knew that this was coming, of course, because this is essentially a recapitulation of the Atlantean conflict back in Atlantis. In fact, what I call, as most of you are aware, the third and final stage of the world wars in the 2 world wars in the last century, this being the third and final world war that we hope does not precipitate the physical plane, that we're fighting out right now on the astral and mental planes. Jim Collins says, my understanding is that initiations take place on a higher plane in consciousness, especially the first and second. If so, would we be aware that we have passed through one or failed one? Most definitely, you would be aware that you went through something. I've read several experiences, which there's an author, I can't think of his name now. He's one of these new age authors. Oh, he wrote a book which described his initiation experience. He was out of his tree for about 2 weeks, just completely in the other realm of consciousness. I believe he went through the second initiation in that book. His name almost comes to me. Lost it now, but in my book on called The Initiations of Krishnamurti, I talk about his various initiations. His recapitulation of the first and second initiations, his taking of the third and fourth initiations are covered in separate chapters throughout that book. And I examine his chart for all the criteria that DK gives in esoteric astrology for the initiations. For instance, Mars and the moon create a fearful conflict when a person is going through the 3rd degree initiation. Mercury and Saturn are prominent at the 4th initiation, and so forth. Vulcan and Pluto at the 1st initiation. And the first and second are not regarded as major initiations by the hierarchy. The first major initiation is the 3rd degree, because then you really have the consciousness of the solar system. Before that, you're more earthbound, so to speak. Sylvia says, did Master DK through AAB or perhaps Blavatsky ever speak about artificially induced genetic mutation within the human species versus a divinely guided advancement within the human body design as it might relate to advancing the group consciousness? Yes, I understand what you're trying to say here, Sylvia. I've seen many theories about that. That aliens are messing with our DNA and all that kind of stuff, or have done so originally. And I don't buy most of that, personally. I believe that we've been evolving. There may have been some attempted interferences, I think, along the way, but I think essentially we've been evolving since the Lemurian times, our consciousness. Many civilizations from beyond the Earth and maybe even beyond the solar system as a whole are certainly interested in the human species, but there are certain laws that the planetary logos has that those visitors have to abide by. So that's the short answer to that. It's we could talk all night about that one. It's I think what I try and do with these teachings is create a broad framework, foundation of understanding that is safer to move from and speculate on some of these other questions. But if you don't have that framework of understanding, that kind of speculation can lead down all sorts of rabbit holes that don't go anywhere, or that contribute to the general glamour and maya and there's a lot of that around at the moment. You have to read so much stuff that's on the internet that where, for instance, the Christian fundamentalist community is a good example. Some of them have been doing some terrific work in the last couple of years in terms of rejecting a lot of these attempted hijacking of humanity by these other powers. But many of them have regard Bailey in a very superstitious sense, the Bailey teachings, and you can watch videos where they talk about the Lucifer Trust and about their reading from Externalization of the Hierarchy, one of my favorite books, and they're interpreting through the filter of their very limited understanding through their own Christian fundamentalist filters. And they're just, they're not ready for that kind of material yet. They'll get to a stage somewhere down the track where they will be, of course. So Jem says, Sylvia says, can you enlarge it for us? Enlarge what? Oh, now hang on. No, I was looking at an old question. Sorry. So I thought we're coming to the end of the webinar now, but we had some requests from some of the attendees. I'm not sure if they're here tonight or not, that we do a course, and we've decided to start a course in mid-September, about a month from now, and just over a month, on a Thursday, possibly about 4 p.m. our time, which would allow most of Europe and the Americas to participate at a reasonable hour. It's a course I used to offer on my website. We're going to, you can find it there, but we're going to move it to the Aquarian Wisdom Center Retreat website. It's composed of 36 classes that cover all aspects of the Ageless Wisdom, from the Masters of Wisdom to dreams, to the rays, to astrology, the subtle bodies, the chakras, all that kind of thing. It's pretty in depth, and I've always I used to do it as a correspondence course, but I simply don't have the time to administer that anymore. So the people who suggested it said that they're very willing to pay for it, but we're a non-profit organization, so we are only taking donations, and most people will be able to figure out what a reasonable donation will be for it. Anyone who participates in the course will be required to make a donation of some sort. So we'll be starting that in mid-September. We'll be sending out a newsletter to give you more details and to give you the link on the website that you can run through all the different classes that are available and peruse the contents of those classes, what we cover. And I'm looking forward to doing it because each time I do it, I get a lot out of it myself. That is the nature of the Ageless Wisdom. There's no end to the various layers that we can peel back. What you read or learned sort of 5 years ago, you can see in a completely different light. And of course, it's a group endeavor, and we invoke the group mind in these kind of explorations. And this is why I always am exhorting you to ask questions, because that invokes the group mind, the group soul. It's not just me, it's tapping into a collective. And likewise in the Ageless Wisdom course, which we hope to run, 36 weeks is almost a year. We might even have breaks during that 36 weeks to allow for holidays when people go away, for instance, several weeks in summertime in the Northern Hemisphere and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, the people in Australia and New Zealand will miss out on this timeline unless they get up in the middle of the night. We had to cater for the most people. There is a group in Western Australia who have written to me. I don't know whether any of you are here at all, but we can look at a separate course for the Australia, New Zealand time zone. But we just thought we'd announce that tonight to put it out there, and please give us your feedback via email to the email address that you see in the emails we send out to you. And you feel free to ask any questions now before we close the meeting. Or anything that you want to say, Natalia or Ines?
Well, just that we are thrilled to offer this to everybody, and that we will participate also because we are all students here. And well, it's another step about the service we are facilitating to everybody.
Indeed. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for turning up.
Philip, and also because we are going
participating
to
in the meditation. Sorry.
Sorry, Philip, I was going to say that also we are going to send an email, and if you please, if you share with the people that you think are interested, even if they don't know about us or about our monthly webinars, we appreciate.
Yeah. Indeed. So this starting of the course in mid-September will coincide with the Virgo full moon, or just before then. We'll have the Virgo full moon webinar. So looking forward to seeing you all then. And in the meantime, as Natalia said, don't hesitate to share with others you think may be interested, and or give us feedback or questions that and clarifications. All right. So thanks very much, and I'll leave it to you, Natalia, to sign off.
Okay, Philip. So if you want to stop sharing, please, and we'll keep the
Very good.
the meeting open just for the next minute. So if you want to say something, thank you so much. See you next month. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, everyone.